All right, you've joined Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for insight and analysis that you will not find anywhere else online concerning the game we love, college football. Of course, the audio versions at Google Play, Podbean, iTunes, and Stitcher, and it is Rivalry Month. We've looked at Clemson, Florida State, Tennessee, Florida. We've got all the big ones on hand later in the week. Ohio State, Michigan, Auburn, Alabama, on down the line. We even caught up with Arkansas and Missouri. And of course, many people said, rivalry? What rivalry? Well, we will not have that problem in this discussion right here. When I think rivalries in college football, and just think about college football in particular, it's about small town USA. It's about college towns. But USC, UCLA, that's just got a different feel. So we're going to talk USC, UCLA here with Mike Regalado from Gojo Bruin. We also have Drew Krinsky on the line from Trojan Insider. So guys, Mike, you have seniority in terms of Mark Rogers TV experience over Drew. Drew's got the USC, UCLA ledger going for him. So I don't know which way to go, but Mike, I guess I'll go with you. What makes this one just different, just special?
Well, you talk about how a lot of rivalries are small town, in-state rivalries are, pretty vicious. But considering that both teams are in Los Angeles and they're 11 miles apart, it makes it a huge deal, especially in a metropolitan city where it's definitely divided, come the end of November, early December. So and then having to just, they're both fantastic universities, academic-wise and athletics. Both of them, I think, are 1 and 3 in most NCAA championships. So, both are huge powerhouse athletic schools. So that just adds, fuel to the fire.
All right, Drew, what do you think? USC, UCLA, what makes this one a little more unique than your garden variety rivalry?
Yeah, definitely proximity. And I think UCLA and USC, each side kind of represents a different part of the town. USC, you kind of have South Central LA is a different feel. UCLA, you have more affluent area, nicer place. It's like rich versus poor in terms of area. But in terms of sports too, it's split. Basketball, baseball, got to give that to UCLA. Football, other sports. USC's ahead on that. And there's always a good battle between the two schools. Maybe not in baseball, though.
All right.
Yeah, even with some of the revenue sports, you get a lot of heated competition. So, and everyone takes it to heart when it comes to the I'm blanking out, the Crosstown Cup. So that's lesser known, but it's it's pretty fun, especially when you go to something like a track meet or a tennis game. You can still feel the intensity.
So I'm going to give you guys a little perspective from a way outsider who does nothing but love college football. So I got that perspective of it. I've got the numbers, I got the history, I got watching all the games, but I'm not right there in the middle of it. So growing up in Ohio, we're freezing our rear ends off at the end of November, and that's what we think football is in November. We're watching Ohio State, Michigan play and other rivalries across the country, and then we tune into USC, UCLA, and if it's less than 60 degrees, then there's a panic warning out. Or there's a little bit of rain in the air and somebody makes a big deal of that, and we're like, well, deal with it. But I've mentioned this to Mike many times. The look of the two uniforms on the same field, especially when they play at the Rose Bowl, but either venue, but especially at the Rose Bowl, with those two uniforms, it's the best looking game out there. If nothing else, even if they're both, 4 and 6, it's the best looking game, Mike.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the colors just contrast really well. Basketball started doing that where both teams would wear the home uniforms, whether they're at the Galen Center or at Poly Pavilion. And yeah, there's just something just visually stimulating about it. So, and then you have to realize that there's an actual game going on. But yeah, no, the colors clash, especially with the mix of gold with both teams have. So the Cardinal against the blue, that's a pretty nice combo.
What do you say, Drew? Is this where would this rank among the rivalries? Would this be difficult for you to tab unbiasedly? But it's got to be one of the best.
Yeah, it's up there. I mean, I'd say there's bloodier rivalries. I live in Florida, so you kind of see Florida State, Miami. There's a lot of trash talking there. UCLA, USC. It's a lot of words.
So, in looking at where we stand right now, this has a feel of USC obviously dominating in recent years. Although USC or UCLA certainly had some wins under Jim Mora, but USC the better program right this second. But it's could turn here quickly with Chip Kelly on board. So, Drew, is there any thought amongst USC fans of taking notice that there is a guy across town now that has actually proven at this level that he can win big?
Yeah, I think on the message board you see USC fans get a little worried when Chip Kelly's out there. New face, obviously well known, has a style of offense that defenses usually have a hard time covering. So it brings a new life to the rivalry.
Mike, when you think back USC, UCLA, what are some memories that come to mind, whether that be, the actual game-winning touchdowns or whatever, maybe some side notes of, some interactions with people or just some bizarre stuff going on?
Well, most recently, just the 3 years that Brett Hundley was at the reins at UCLA, those were pretty amazing. And I was at that first game where, like you said, it was cold and it started to rain towards the end of the game. But, Anthony Barr had that vicious sack on Matt Barkley and, finally took a game away from USC and then started a three-game win streak, which unfortunately ended under the Josh Rosen era, which we thought would be a little bit more competitive as it was, but it turned out not so much. But this last year, it was actually, the game versus Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen, first time we were able to see that, and to have, the game was at the Coliseum, and, USC was rolling. Had some trouble through the season, but they were rolling, and UCLA was just trying to survive. And that was a pretty darn good game, but for the most part, it's it's pretty vicious battle. It really doesn't matter if both teams have 4 wins or 2 losses, 8 wins going into the end of the season. It's just always vicious. So it's a really fun game.
Well, you make a good point right there, Mike, because when you think about it, it's difficult in a rivalry game. Number one, there's only 15 or 20 around the country that really means something on a national scale, and then to have a situation, even though the teams weren't great last year, of course, USC won the conference, that you had 2 premier quarterbacks on the field. And it was had that feel, again, even though UCLA was headed to a minor bowl and not even knowing if they would go bowling at that point, it just had a feel of, okay, we got 2 studs on the field. This is the last time we're going to see them on the same field. And actually, was it the only time that we saw them on the same field, because Rosen was hurt the year before when Darnold was finishing out the season and got to the Rose Bowl. So we really needed to take advantage. And it was nice to see UCLA hung in the game somewhat unexpectedly. So Drew, your thoughts about USC, UCLA, what thoughts for you come to mind?
Yeah, this last recent game, a lot of USC fans figured it would be a blowout. But UCLA's Jordan Lasley, I remember, he showed up big in that game. He was torching USC DBs. It seems like he always just got open in that game. And also, I think that was the game where Michael Pittman, they kind of fooled everyone on a punt. They faked it as the punt was going one way, so all the defenders went to go cover another guy, and the punt actually landed on the other side of the field. So they had a wide open.
That was odd. That was a very bizarre play.
Yeah, they pulled it off perfectly. Drew, when you think from a USC perspective about rivalry, I guess it would depend on how good these 2 teams are, meaning Notre Dame and UCLA. So you've got 2 rivals that come to mind. And is there can the 2 rivalries be compared? Is there one that trumps the other?
It's a different style, but obviously both teams play each other every year. USC fans go crazy. Oh, we hate Notre Dame. We hate UCLA. UCLA-USC, I feel, has always been more of a closer game in recent years, where with Notre Dame, it's usually pretty one-sided. Notre Dame versus USC this year was a total blowout. The year before, USC was blowing Notre Dame out, and then the year before was a closer game. But I think UCLA USC is usually more of a closer game the entire way.
Hey, Mike, when we talk of other rivalries across the country, and Drew kind of alluded to this, we know that there's serious bad blood between Auburn and Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan. Urban Meyer will talk about, since he took the job, that they practice for Michigan every week, and Michigan does the same for Ohio State, that every Friday, even if they're going to be playing whoever, Minnesota that week, they're practicing for the other team. Does Chip Kelly, does he give any indication of understanding what this rivalry is about, that it's important, that he's going to be judged to a certain extent on his success against USC? Has he talked about that at all?
No, he doesn't even have an updated roster on the UCLA website, which, that was actually updated every spring under Jim Mora. And that might be, I don't know if that's a, just slip the mind, but stuff like that, where he doesn't really want to release any information. Injuries, I'm surprised we got as many injury reports as we did. But I don't think Chip Kelly is going to give away anything. I mean, even to the people that write about him. During spring, we saw basic RPO schemes and zone reads. He's apparently going to be bringing in the triple option, which I saw a little bit of that during spring practice, but during the spring game, nothing. So I think he was just playing it vanilla, and right now, I think he's still feeling out his players. So that's a huge thing as well. But I don't even think he's going to tell his coaching staff what's happening the week before a certain game, especially against USC. I mean, it's a little, exaggeration, but no, he's going to play everything close to the vest.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, talking rivalries in this rivalry month here of June. USC, UCLA. We're on the line with Mike Regalado from Gojo Bruin and Drew Krinsky from Trojan Insider. Mike, I don't know that your average college football fan would know this unless they take in the broad scope of sports, college athletics, understanding that UCLA, I believe, still holds the record for most national championships in all sports put together, correct?
They're one behind Stanford, who just retook the lead, I think, with tennis a couple weeks ago. So, but Stanford has 117, UCLA has 116.
Well, there you go. So we're talking about arguably the most successful sports program in the nation. Student athletes at their very highest if you're taking all the sports and you're leveling out the playing field. But, of course, we know that people are watching college football like maniacs, and it's the most popular sport by far. It's not even close against the other athletics. So is it odd to be, as a UCLA alum, do UCLA fans and alumni talk about, okay, we're here when it talks about when we broaden the argument to greatest athletic institution versus football's given all this attention, and obviously USC has in long stretches of time dominated the series and been the better team over the entirety of the program.
Well, football. I mean, I've noticed, like a different. How can I say this? Let's say just your average football fan for both USC and UCLA, that that's what they focus on. They kind of don't care about the other sports. But then like I said before, there are some really diehard USC and UCLA fans in the non-revenue sports. So it's just both schools want to beat the other as badly as possible. So it doesn't matter in what sport. But when it comes to football, it just takes on a different attitude, and especially that week prior, rivalry week, and it's just both teams come out with their chest puffed out, we're gonna win, and it doesn't matter if one team is like 5 games behind the other one. Both think that they have a chance to win, so it's pretty it's really exciting and nail biting sometimes too, because it's been close last couple of years, but hopefully it can be a little bit closer going into the future.
And we talked off the top about the distinction in this rivalry, and there's many distinctions, but the one being in the large market. It's unlike the other big rivalries across the country because of Los Angeles and because of the sports influence on the professional level and just the attention that goes to so many things in that area, from the entertainment field, obviously, and then into sports. Now back with 2 NFL teams, 2 baseball teams, 2 NBA teams, on down the line. Just so much attention to grab, and it's difficult. You not only need to win, you need to win in a way in which is going to gain attention. So, Mike, your thoughts and perspective and taking a guess over who owns this town percentage-wise, USC, UCLA?
In football, it's USC. I think they have a double-digit lead over UCLA right now. That might change with Chip Kelly, but I'm not holding my breath. Not this year, at least, because we talked about it last time. Like, who knows what the heck is going to happen with UCLA? I won't be surprised if they only win 4 or if they only lose 4. But there's still a lot of, nobody knows what's going to happen. Just previewing the schedule, what's going to happen week to week for UCLA. So right now, USC has the edge. I mean, but if you're talking about other NCAA championships, UCLA kind of, they're in the lead for that. But, USC is nothing, to snooze on, because Stanford, UCLA, and USC, they're the only 3 schools in the nation that have over 100 team championships. So, there's, the rivalries are everywhere.
Got Drew Krinsky on the line from Trojan Insider, and also Mike Regalado from Gojo Bruin discussing USC and UCLA. Drew, when you look at this USC team for college football fans that watch my channel, many are trying to keep up with everyone. What are you eyeing as we head toward August? What are the storylines? What do people not know about USC, and how good can we expect them to be this year?
Well, that's the thing. It really just depends on how JT Daniels shows up and how the offensive line shows up. Offensive line has been a blemish for USC for the past 2 years. Darnold's been running for his life. Now it seems like they have a more solid line. They got some good recruits coming in, and they had recruits from the prior classes that are now fulfilling the roles. So they expect to have a better offensive line. I'm not sure if it's going to be as good as we'd like it to be, but that's besides the fact. But JT Daniels, that's the big question. All the weight is on his shoulders right now. You can't have Matt Fink or Jack Sears really fulfill the role, because they proved in spring that they don't really have that spice that USC needs. Nothing like Darnold. It was sad to watch at times. They couldn't really run the offense well, and it was all defense this spring. So with JT coming in, he's going to have to really pick up the reins and lead the offense. And that's the question, how good can he be? Obviously, in high school, he was player of the year, had all these accolades, came out early. So he's still young, but he has to fulfill a big role. And I think USC fans have a lot of expectations for him.
So we hope to have Drew on a number of times this summer, setting us up for USC fall camp and position-by-position breakdown. And either one of you and many other contributors looking at the top 5 at every position in the Pac-12. Mike, I was looking at what I would consider to be the top 10 dark horses in college football this year. Teams that could jump off the radar and do some unexpected good things.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at UCLA's last 4 recruiting classes, and I looked at Chip Kelly's last 4 recruiting classes at Oregon, in which he went, I believe the record was something like 60-8. It was crazy. And you couldn't really separate the two sizes or the two populations of talent in terms of the way they ranked in recruiting. UCLA over the last 4 years has generally been 3rd or 4th in the Pac-12 every year. I think their best class has been 2nd in the conference, and the worst has been 4th. And all those classes have ranked between like 12th and 20th in the country. And for Chip Kelly, during those 4 years in which he was among the elite in college football, his Pac-12 recruiting classes at Oregon were 2nd, 3rd, 4th in the conference, and between 15 and 20 in the country. So he has a level of, and that's dealing with a lot of players. So I don't think those recruiting rankings can be off by that much, covering 4 classes. So he's going to be dealing with and has on his roster similar talent to what he had at Oregon, theoretically. Maybe he does a little bit more than we expect this year.
That's kind of what I'm hoping, because one thing I'm hearing a lot of analysts say when they talk about UCLA is that the cupboard is bare. That's not necessarily true, probably for a couple key positions, offensive line, linebackers, because the former coaching staff, the old regime, didn't do so well recruiting those specific positions, nor developing them. So there's switching players, the need to recruit extra position players in this last signing day was key for Chip Kelly. But yeah, he has a lot of talent. I mean, obviously he loses Josh Rosen, which is huge, but he also has to figure out how to work certain positions like the offensive line, who only returns 2 starters from last season. 3 of them are gone, and it wasn't the best offensive line to begin with. So I think the tutelage that the Bruins are getting now is going to help them out. But one thing to look for, I'm really looking forward to how UCLA's defense is going to perform, because they have some pretty talented guys. Rick Wade, Mike Juarez, Jalen Phillips, Keyshawn Lewis yourself. Their secondary is going to be nuts with Nate Metters. I'm blanking on the other 2 right now. Darnay Holmes, and the other guy will come to me. So the defense, and they've been playing very, very aggressive, and that was kind of the theme of spring, is to play violent. The defensive line coach Vince, forgive me if I mess his name up, Ogobase, is. He would scream out more violence, and you saw that definitely during practice in the spring game. So that's one side that's really got me excited. But I think the offense is going to take a little bit more time, even if they have the talent, especially running the complexity and the multiple schemes that Chip Kelly wants to do. That might take a little bit more time. But keep an eye on the defense and some of their key players.
So tons of comments and questions on the chat. These people basically take off on their own conversations, though, but I'm trying to peck through and find what we have concerning USC and UCLA. So this one from Tim Lee, 356, Mike, wanting to know if Chip Kelly's making an impact in recruiting in California.
Yeah, he's going across the nation, but he's picked up some local kids. One thing that was interesting, he's offered out 4 scholarships to quarterbacks for the 2019 class. One of them, Jaden Daniels, he's out in San Bernardino, not too far from here, about an hour east. So, position players like that, he's definitely, staying, local, but he's also, checking out, what's happening nationally. I think it was something like 85% of the recruits that he brought in from this last recruiting class were all from California or the West, or the 3 neighboring states, Arizona, Nevada, and Oregon. So he's definitely working the local angle, but I think now that he's gotten his foot in the door and is working the recruiting trail, we're going to see more offers out and hopefully more commitments from kids around the nation.
So I throw this out knowing that neither one of you guys are specifically like recruiting guys that are just out there beating the paths, breaking down the talent, looking at recruiting. So I just throw this out. Jamie's asking why Oregon owns Mater Dei. Do we have any idea of what Oregon's doing there at Mater Dei High School, gaining recruits? And apparently, according to this comment, USC, UCLA doing as well there?
Yeah, Sean Dollars, Jeremiah Cradell just recently committed from Mater Dei to Oregon. They're making really good impressions right now. I mean, a lot of the guys, I've been out to Mater Dei. I was there, I think, a month and a half ago, and a lot of them are saying how, Oregon coaches are showing them love. They love the visits up there. Sean Dollars really liked it. The coaching staff up there, same with Cradell. But also, one thing to take in is USC. USC's early on, they don't really put the pedal to the metal. They're kind of careful with making sure they get the right guys. And I think their effort towards Cradell and Dollars wasn't quite where those players would like it to be. So they felt like they're not loved or whatever. So that's the reason why Oregon has the momentum they do right now. But I guess as we go on towards signing day, that's when we'll find out how much Oregon's really doing.
Mike, 28, add 28 wants to know what's expected of the UCLA offensive line situation this year and who's going to start at quarterback. That's always the question.
Two tough questions, but that offensive line question, surprisingly, is way easier to answer. The offensive line should be a little bit better, especially since they they're working with Chip Kelly's scheme, and what Kelly wants to do is, play to his players' strengths. So that's going to be something positive, and running plays and schemes based on what he can do, and not just saying, hey, you 5 guys stay there and open up some holes. Especially with the way he's going to be running a lot of the RPO, run pass option, zone read, triple option. It's going to be deceptive, so that's a good thing. I think they're going to keep defenses on their toes, but the offense, some guys are a little bit smaller. One of the defensive linemen, Boss Tagaloa, he just moved over to center, and he did an okay job. Needs to sharpen up his skills snapping the ball, but for the most part, during spring he did a fantastic job going in and doing the best he could. As far as quarterbacks, they have 5. 2 from last year, Devin Modster and Matt Lynch. I thought Modster was going to have the advantage, or at least, and maybe Lynch have getting that backup spot. But out of nowhere, Austin Burton, this dual threat, sophomore from he was originally committed to Boston College. He's on the East Coast. He had a fantastic spring game. Modster and Lynch didn't. I don't think they threw for more than 40 yards. Burton had something like 120 yards, a touchdown. He had some decent runs. So he just threw himself into the quarterback battle royale. We also have Wilton Spigot. However, I still don't know how to pronounce that.
That would be Spade, as a guy that covers the Big Ten.
There you go. I should really figure out how to pronounce his name, because I'm going to be
skate with a P.
Spade. There you go. Thank you. That Michigan transfer. That's interesting because he's more of a pocket passer, and though he did really well with Michigan and that offense, he kind of how can I say, doesn't move around a lot, and that seems to be required for a Chip Kelly offense. So, he has a good arm, so I think with Chip Kelly wanting to focus on the short game in his run-based spread offense, he might be able to help out there. And his in-game experience, too, coming from a Big Ten school, playing against other Big Ten schools, that's a bit of an advantage. But then you have the prototypical Chip Kelly dual threat quarterback, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who's looking to come in and make some headlines as well. He might be the most suited for what Chip Kelly's trying to do. He has a strong arm, incredibly accurate, and just really good with his feet. I kind of like to say he has the arm of Josh Rosen and the legs of Brett Hundley. Hopefully that is comes out good for UCLA, but it just kind of depends on what Chip Kelly wants to do now. I mean, you can kind of see where he wants to go in the future, but right now he's still, putting this team together like a jigsaw puzzle. So I have no idea who's going to be the starting quarterback.
So when I set the scene earlier about this being the best looking game because of the uniforms and the good weather and the beautiful Rose Bowl field in particular, I left out one element, but it's been asked on the chat. So this is one part of it too, of course. Which school has hotter girls?
USC, definitely. Well,
yes, I've talked to number 2, but UCLA.
All right.
It's. I honestly, just being honest, I think it's a tie. It's LA, and yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much all you have. I think we get it. You can't go wrong on either campus.
Definitely.
USC and UCLA. Do we know what the series record is here, Mike? I'm.
Oh, I think USC is up like 80-4. No, it's not that bad, but I think USC they have a double-digit lead. They had those two. I think an 8-game win streak and a 7-game win streak in the last 20 years. So that kind of really boosted them past UCLA, and we thought things were going to change with Jim Mora, and then it kind of went back, to the way it was. When Josh Rosen got in here, although it's not entirely Josh Rosen's fault, we had issues with what Mora did, but no, USC is well in the lead.
So Mora's first year was what, 2012?
I believe so, yes.
So he must have gone 3-2. He won his first 3 games, and then he lost the last 2. And
3-3 because Brett Hundley was 3-0 against the Trojans, and then they lost the next 3 years with Rosen. Though Rosen didn't play that second year because of his injury.
Yeah, we've got USC 49-31 with 7 ties, so a nice 18-game lead. That's about what I would have guessed.
Yeah,
right there. All right, gentlemen. You've done nice work during Rivalry Month here at Mark Rogers TV. So Mike Regalado, go Joe Bruin, catch up with UCLA football, UCLA athletics. And if you love college football, and if you're like me that try to keep up with everyone, you got to check out his work right there. Some interesting perspective beyond and outside the box of just the typical reads and trying to gain just a different feel for the landscape of UCLA football. And Drew Krinsky joins us from Trojan Insider, also on a regular basis, breaking down USC football. So, Drew, we appreciate you jumping on board as usual as well.
Thank you.